And I'll be honest, I don't think there can ever be or will ever be a better adaptation of Lovecraft. How many times have you sat down in front of a movie that promises you it's going to be a Lovecraft movie adaptation, and you start watching it and you tell yourself, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with the master's work. It takes a lot more than a bunch of cultists and a bucket full of tentacles to recreate that eerie atmosphere, that unique flavor of the Lovecraft story. Well, my friends, the stars are right, for I bring you the top 7 H.P. Lovecraft adaptations I have seen so far. Number 7 is Dagon from 2001 from legendary director Stuart Gordon. Was also produced by Brian Yuzna and written by Dennis Paoli, and these three form the core creative team that brought us movies like Re-Animator and From Beyond, that really ushered in the modern era of not only Lovecraft adaptations, but in many ways important movies in modern horror and science fiction as a whole. This one, even though it's stylistically different from the others and has a few things that I don't like as much, it has handheld camera, which I don't like very much. What it does have is prodigiously effective recreation of the atmosphere of, in this case, Shadow over Innsmouth, and also Dagon, but this is mainly an adaptation of Shadow over Innsmouth. Even though it's a modern retelling and it's moved to Spain instead of New England, once our young hero arrives in the Spanish Innsmouth, the atmosphere is really extremely faithful to the story, and this includes both the sense of fear and dread, and being besieged by the mutant half-man, half-fishman running around with the mutations, and meeting the crazy last human survivor who's played here by Francisco Rabal, who died after this movie, who was a very well-known and very much loved actor. The movie is dedicated to him. He does a great job here. The movie recreates this atmosphere of fear and dread, but also the horror that the character feels when he starts realizing that he has a lot more in common with the mutant fishman or half-man, half-fishman than he would like. The movie not only shows us this totally Lovecraftian atmosphere of the city with the rain and all these things, the decaying city, but also the sense of awe and wonder and beauty, which often people don't think of when they think of Lovecraft. But certainly in this story, the character is horrified to learn that he's this half-man creature, kind of spoiling it for you. I presume you've seen it. But by the end of the story, he's on board. He's Camp Cthulhu now. He likes the deep ones. He likes the submerged city. He's realized the error of his human ways, and he's embraced this new vista of existential delight. Again, awe, beauty, wonder. These are things which we don't think about in terms of Lovecraft in general, but it's there from the beginning with Lovecraft, in this famous Dunsany cycle. That sense of wonder is very well brought to the fore here, especially at the conclusion. And, it's a nice send-off by that creative team. Number 6 is, let me check this is a Japanese title, Insumasu o Ukage, roughly translated H.P. Lovecraft's Innsmouth from 1992. This is also an adaptation of Shadow over Innsmouth. This time it's a Japanese adaptation, and here as well it's adapted to the modern age, transposed to contemporary Japan or 1990s Japan. It's a brilliant stroke of recreation and transposition. Most of the details of the story have been changed, but at the same time, when you're watching it, you recognize every beat of the story. This character who is attracted by these strange dreams, and he's attracted to this city, and he gets trapped there, and the locals are horrible, and all these details of the story and the atmosphere of the city. But here, more focus is put on the attraction he feels. And there's definitely a lot of horror and strange things going on, madness and all these things. But the character is transforming into this fish person. And why it appeals to him so much, that the movie really pulls that off. And what's really cool about this one is the Japanese flavor that the director and scriptwriter, the same guy, is called Chiaki Konaka, I think. I think he did some manga and also some Ultraman serials. He really succeeds in translating Lovecraft through the filter of Japanese culture and sensibility. So on the one hand, it completely feels like the Lovecraft story, but at the same time, it's this very odd piece of art, which is at the same time very familiar and very different. It is a TV movie, so it looks cheap. It has zero budget, but it is pretty easy to find a copy now. I think it's on YouTube with subtitles, and I love that movie. I was very pleasantly surprised by that one, and I think it's very, very close to the tone and the spirit and the atmosphere, and again, the main story beats of the story. Great adaptation. Number 5 is Out of Mind, the stories of H.P. Lovecraft. So this is a documentary directed by a Québécois, actually, by Raymond Saint-Jean, his name is. Again, he directed and wrote the scenario. But there is one bit of adaptation in it. It's like a 5-minute short movie, essentially, which recreates the statement of Randolph Carter. This is a 1998 movie. I saw it when it came out on VHS, and I have never forgotten that sequence, that 5-minute sequence. I think about it all the time. It's a story with, the two friends. They start, digging in graves, and they discover the passageway to the Ghoul City, essentially. And one of them is outside, and the other is going down, and he's talking with the radio. Amazing story by Lovecraft. That story is magnificently adapted in the movie, and the movie also scores some bonus points because H.P. Lovecraft actually appears in the documentary. He's played by Christopher Heyerdahl, and if you ever wanted to see Lovecraft explain to you how to actually pronounce Cthulhu, you have it in this movie. This is great. This is well worth tracking out and finding. Number 4 is The Haunted Palace from 1963 by Roger Corman. This was actually, to my knowledge, the first ever H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. Certainly, with 100% certainty, is the first feature-length movie. Maybe there was something on television I'm not aware of, but it's the first Lovecraft movie, and we're very lucky because Corman, by this stage in his career, this was in the middle of the Poe cycle, the movie was actually sold as an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation. It's an adaptation of Charles Dexter Ward, Strange Case of Charles Dexter Ward, and Corman, by this stage, was a complete master of the craftsmanship of making movies, and it shows in every frame of this movie here. It looks rich, tremendous atmosphere. It has Vincent Price, it has Lon Chaney. It's quite a few liberties with the story, but essentially all the core story ingredients are there. We have, the Eldritch gods, we have mutations, we have all these things. This movie was a tremendous start to the grand tradition of the H.P. Lovecraft movie adaptations. I was very pleasantly surprised the first time I watched it, and I loved it as much when I watched it again recently. I love this one, never gets old. Haunted Palace. Number 3, H.P. Lovecraft's Dunwich Horror and Other Stories from 2007. This is another Japanese adaptation. It's sold as a claymation movie, but you will find when you watch it that there's a lot of clay involved, but there's actually very little motion. It's a clay movie. There's no motion, but that doesn't matter. This is again a movie that really recreates both the stories and the atmosphere of Lovecraft. So the 3 stories are The Picture in the House. it's not as memorable. But the second one is the Dunwich Horror, which is fantastic in this one. And the third one is the Festival, one of my favorite Lovecraft stories. Dunwich Horror is super, super cool in this movie. But the Festival is where the movie really attains, like, epic status. It's a mood piece, an atmosphere piece, and again, this sense that the main character thinks everything is fine, but when he gets back to his small town for the festival, he realizes the moral decay at the core of his hometown and of himself. That sense of discovering unknown horrors in ourselves, atmosphere and mystery and doom. That, little segment, they're all 15-minute short movies essentially, is really recreated beautifully. The Dunwich Horror and Other Stories, an excellent discovery. It's only 45 minutes. Do check it out. It's fantastic. Number 2 is Color Out of Space from 2019 from Richard Stanley, one of my favorite directors, a very cool, very interesting guy. But I went to watch it when that came out in the big screen. This is a movie that actually is deliberately trying to drive you insane. I came out of that movie, it took me 5 hours to calm down. And I told myself, this is the last horror movie I ever watch. It's horrible. This is true cosmic horror. And Richard Stanley, he gets cosmic horror and he gets Lovecraft. And he directed this movie after his mother, who I think was a very famous, renowned anthropologist, essentially. And she died of cancer. And it was very horrible. I mentioned this because a big part of this story, you can tell it's kind of this transposition of this feeling and this sense of, existential horror and decay, which is completely Lovecraftian, of course. It's beautiful. Once again, it captures that sense of awe and mystery and wonder I mentioned. We get not to spoil it, but we do get a glimpse of, the Cthulhuid dimensions, and it's truly awe-inspiring. Quick word about Nicolas Cage, who's in this movie. For a long time, I don't know if it's still the case, but for a long time, Nicolas Cage was basically like a walking meme. It was treated as such because he had these outlandish performances, but he's actually a very good actor, a tremendous actor, and he's absolutely brilliant in this because the movie uses that crazy Nicolas Cage performance. He starts very grounded, very true, very real, very loving with his wife and his family, but by the end, he's in full crazy Nick Cage mode. But this is when the movie is in full cosmic horror mode, and it works brilliantly. Like, Nicolas Cage was almost born to make this movie. Only good things to say about Color Out of Space, a true masterpiece of Lovecraft horror movies. Though I have to say that, again, this movie is trying to drive you mad. And I did suspect while watching it that he was actually trying to call the elder gods on Earth. So be aware that this is the closest you can get to reading the Necronomicon. But that's a pretty big achievement for a Lovecraft movie, don't you say? Before my number 1, a couple of honorable mentions. From Beyond Re-Animator, I mentioned them earlier, the Stuart Gordon movies. They're fantastic. I rewatched both of them recently, Re-Animator this week. They're even better than our memories. Re-Animator it's underrated. It's much loved, everybody loves it, but even then, we really underestimate how good Re-Animator is, and so is From Beyond. The Resurrected, written by Dan O'Bannon, also an adaptation of Charles Dexter Ward. Dunwich Horror, the 1970 version. Many people don't like it, but I do. It takes a lot of liberties with the story, but it has, very Lovecraftian elements in it, and there's one sequence in particular near the end where they're walking to the evil altar of the evil gods. That's straight out of the stories, and I have a fondness for that movie. I think it's very creative in its use of its lack of budget and its creativity, so it's very cool. And the last honorable mention is the for now yet to be born Guillermo del Toro's Mountains of Madness. I know the project has been abandoned, but let us manifest it. Let us all manifest Guillermo del Toro's Mountains of Madness. As long as I breathe, I will tell myself that one day we will see it. Gods of cinema, please grant us this movie. Number one, at last, the best H.P. Lovecraft movie adaptation I've ever seen. And I'll be honest, I don't think there can ever be or will ever be a better adaptation of Lovecraft. It's the Call of Cthulhu from 2005. And this is even better because it's an amateur production. This was created by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. A bunch of fans, enthusiastic fans, talented fans, but fans, people like you and I. And they decided to make a movie of Call of Cthulhu, which is a very hard story to adapt because of the structure, and it's all based on documents and all these things. But that wasn't enough of a difficulty for them because they told themselves, the story was written in 1926, let us make it as a movie as if it had been directed in 1926. It's a silent movie. When I watched it the first time, I loved it. It was my favorite Lovecraft movie back then, but having rewatched it recently and having watched a lot more silent movies, this is a true masterpiece of silent cinema. That director sat down very obviously and watched a bunch of silent movies, Dr. Caligari and all these masterpieces, and very evidently took attentive notes to learn how to speak that grammar of silent cinema, which is a grammar all its own. You know, it's a different way of making movies. And when you compare the result, when you watch that movie and you compare it to like movies like Caligari, this is on that level. It's as good as that. So yes, there is again some CGI, not a lot, but a little bit of it. It's a bit distracting. There are a couple of amateur actors who aren't as good, a couple of scenes, and sometimes their way of playing, their style of playing is more modern than the one you usually find in the 1920s. But all in all, it's an amazing recreation of the Lovecraft story and of the aesthetic of the silent era. It's a monumental achievement. Everything is straight out of the story. This is like almost a beat-for-beat recreation of the entire story. It's all there, as faithful as you can get. You have this sequence where the artist who gets the famous dreams from Cthulhu, who is called by Cthulhu, the sequence where he starts having these nightmares and he becomes slowly insane, this montage sequence. That is tremendous. There's a sequence where Inspector Legras and all the cops, they attack the cultists in Louisiana. Amazing, looks beautiful, super atmospheric, horrible, all these things. Incredibly faithful recreation of the story, of the atmosphere of the story. We have the approach on the relay, the Cthulhu city, with, how do you actually shoot, non-Euclidean geometry? How do you shoot the impossible city which the human mind cannot conceive? This movie does it. And there's one sequence where a sailor falls into a trap, essentially. I won't spoil it for you. It's, it's jaw-dropping. You will not see it coming. And it's all done with, old school movie tricks. The alienness of the Cthulhu, universe. And finally, of course, there's a sequence where Cthulhu attacks and it drives the few surviving sailors insane. What you have here is a true artistic achievement on the level of the works it's trying to emulate and to copy, created by fans who recreate perfectly a story that is impossible to adapt. This one it's as rare as the rising of Relay from the sea, essentially. It's a true phenomenon, and we're lucky to have been on the planet at the moment where not only has Lovecraft written that story, but a bunch of passionate fans, as an act of love, created this incredible, movie. There are still quite a few, I have to admit, Lovecraft adaptations I haven't seen, but I'm pretty certain that, even though I know there are some cool ones on that list, I don't think anyone in the history of mankind or Cthulhu kind is likely to ever, equal or surpass, certainly, the brilliant and demented passion of the Call of Cthulhu, which is why it's my number one. What's your favorite Cthulhu Lovecraft movie adaptation? Do let me know. And in the meantime, see you later. Keep watching the skies. Cthulhu for Dagon.